Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host Dylan Howell. This is episode 7 of our new YouTube channel and podcast. We're just extremely excited to continue on this journey that we've begun with you guys and continue talking today about this financial action plan that I've kind of just led up to the past week and yesterday and I've talked a lot about this plan that I'm going to lay out. Well, today starts it. Today is part 1. We are looking at budgeting and why budgeting is vital, and we're going to talk about how you can create your budget and why you should create your budget and what all that looks like in this episode. So before we get started, once again, this is a new YouTube channel, a new podcast. It's just going to be really helpful to me if you'll go down below and hit that big red subscribe button, subscribe to this channel. Also like this video, hit the bell that is below to get all the notifications of when I post new content. All of those things are going to continue to help me put out premium content for you guys just day after day, week after week. Also go on social media, all the major social media platforms at MNO with Dylan, and you can follow me there. Hopefully some of the things that I post there are interesting. Also, I'm posting clips from the show and the actual show itself and the link to the YouTube channel. All of those things are going to be found there. So if you can just go give me a follow there, that'd be really useful, really helpful to continuing to grow this channel and bringing you new content. So the financial action plan, man, we're finally here. We finally got this thing rolling, and I'm really excited. If you can't already tell, step one today, budgeting is vital. You must do a budget. Now, I'm not going to hit you with all the other 8 steps. That'll be the next 8 days, but we'll just start here. This is a very elementary concept, but you might not be surprised. I'm surprised at how many people don't do a budget and don't have a plan for their finances month after month. So in a very simple way, what is a budget? A budget is just a plan for your income and your expenses. That's all it is. If you know anything about finance or accounting, it's the equivalent of an income statement. That's what your budget needs to look like. Your budget needs to have your income stated and then all of your subsequent expenses. And your budget is going to tell you where you are financially. Your budget is going to allow you to create a plan for where you want to be financially. A budget is you taking control of your income, you taking control of your money and creating a documented plan, something that is set in stone, something that is ironclad of how you are going to deal with your money in that month or even more often than a month. I say at least monthly you need to create a budget. So in that month, what are you going to do financially? What are you going to do with the income that you receive? So we'll just start from the top. We'll start with income, right? So when you write your income or put your income into your spreadsheet on Excel or into one of the great budgeting apps that are out there, when you do that, your income needs to be your net income, your after-tax income. That does not include insurance. I know that there are a lot of deductions that come out of your pay, so it doesn't include insurance. It also doesn't include your investing, any investing that you're doing, your 401k contributions, whatever that might be. We're not going to include those things. We're talking about just your pay after taxes. That needs to go at the top of the page. And a lot of people will say, well, Dylan, my income is so variable. I don't know what to put there. I don't know where to even start. Some months I make $6,000 a month. Some months I make $2,500 a month because I'm in sales or I do this or I do that. Well, do a conservative estimate of the amount of income that you're going to make and work through your budget that way, and then have a plan later past just the baseline budget for what you'll do with any money above and beyond that conservative estimate of your income. And we'll get to that later, but that needs to be your plan if your income is more variable than most. So before any of the other expenses that we're going to get to are laid out in your budget, I go directly to giving, because giving is something that biblically I'm called to do off of the top of what I earn. So that's the next line that I'm going to have in the first quote unquote expense that I'm going to have is is giving. And so I'll put that at the top of my budget right under income. And this will be the first deduction from that income that I look at. So we'll put giving right there, and we're not just going to put one line, unless you're just giving to one thing, and that's okay if you just put one line for that one thing that you give to. But we want to break down each individual thing that you're giving to, each organization, or if you allot a certain amount of money to give to people directly, then put that there. Put it specifically. What am I giving to? And just do it. It may take one line, it may take six, depending on where you are financially, where you are with your income, where you are in debt. You may be at a different place when it comes to your giving, but I would put that at the top, very first thing, and just name them all. That way you know where your money's going, and you don't have to ask that question or forget about something that you're giving to. Then right after you're giving, we jump directly into your expenses. So you've got your income at the top, you've got the giving that you're doing below that. Then we're going to jump into your monthly fixed expenses first. So we know what our fixed expenses are. For most people, rent or your mortgage, those things are fixed month to month. And so I know what I'm going to pay in rent or on the mortgage. So that's going to be one of the first things that I put there. And when I say fixed expenses, there are certain things that are fixed enough. So for instance, let's say your water bill, which water bills typically aren't ridiculously high. So you can say if you can say within a $10 range what something is going to cost, that's a fixed expense. Then past those fixed expenses, right? Then we'll start with your variable expenses. So some things like groceries might vary, or the money you spend on gas in a month might vary, or the money you spent eating out, or the money you spent on any number of things might vary in a given month. And so I would list all those and list them conservatively. So when I say conservatively here, now I say conservatively with income conservatively, but that means that your income needs to be adjusted downward if you're doing a conservative estimate of a variable income, right? But when I'm talking about expenses and I say conservatively, then I'm saying adjust upward. So kind of take the high range of what something may cost. So then we move from these variable expenses that we have to expenses that are not paid monthly. So for instance, insurance payments are typically not made monthly. And I'm not talking about health insurance. I'm talking about like your life insurance or your car insurance. A lot of things like that are paid in a lot of cases on a semi-annual basis or maybe even an annual basis. But what you need to do is you need to take the entire amount that you're going to spend on that throughout the course of the year or the 6-month period or whatever that may be, and just divide it out and take the average amount per month, and you want to be setting that amount aside. You want to budget for that amount. That way, when that expense occurs, we're not worried about having to pay that thing that one time. We've got the money because we've set it aside for 6 months in a row or for 12 months in a row or however long that may be. And then the last thing with our expenses needs to be things that are unforeseen. And so you may be saying, Dylan, they're unforeseen. How can I budget for something that I don't know is coming? Well, let's just be clear about a couple things. Your car is likely going to have some issues at some point, or you need to do some kind of routine maintenance or something on your vehicle. Well, set aside a reasonable amount every month, and we call this a sinking fund, right? This is a fund that we can put money into. Maybe it's a savings account, or maybe you're just feeding it into your checking. I would suggest some kind of savings account for these types of things, and just put money into this fund month after month. That way, when car troubles do arise, I'm not in a panic. I'm not, super worried about having to cover a $400 expense. I've been putting money away for this particular thing to happen. So when it does, yeah, that's cool. I'll take care of it. Or if I need to get my oil changed, or if I need to get my tires rotated, or any of the little maintenance things, then you can do that as well out of that sinking fund. So we need to allot at least something for things like that. It's not just your car, it may be some other things, but things that could be unforeseen, things that any kind of repairs, things that you don't know if they're coming or not. But those funds are not an excuse to do repairs on your house. It's just that's kind of a separate little emergency outlet, a separate outlet, and not even so much an emergency, because you know those things are going to happen. You know you're going to have to take money out of your sinking funds. So just expect it to happen. Another thing that you can create a sinking fund is also something like Christmas. Christmas is a huge expense for a lot of people. People, spend a lot of money on others' presents. And so having that budgeted out throughout the year and saying, okay, I'm going to spend X on Christmas this year. So I divide that by 12. And so, okay, okay, I know how much I'm going to spend monthly into my sinking fund. And then when it's time to go Christmas shopping, you can just take the sinking fund and go Christmas shopping and not have to worry about breaking your budget for that particular month. So after you've done your expenses and you've started at the top and you've said, okay, your income and then your giving and then all your expenses, whether they be fixed or variable or something that isn't going to happen on that particular month, but you know that you have to put money away for it. After that, what we're going to get into is the saving aspect of our budget. Now, once you've gone through your giving and your expenses or your spending, right, then we're looking at probably less than half of your money left, maybe far less than half of your monthly income. That may not be the case for some of you, but just bear with me because I'm speaking in generalizations here. So when I get to that savings aspect, this may be the first time you ever realized you could save any money. And in that case, bravo, because that's an awesome place to be where you're doing your first budget and you go, oh my gosh, I can actually invest. I can actually save. I have money left over that I can do things with. And that also tells you that maybe you've lived frivolously with your money and it's time to make some good financial habits. And so it's a good thing that you're trying to follow this plan. That's awesome. So now that we're at this point and we can look at the savings aspect of our budget, the amount that you invest or the amount that you save is going to be dependent on the financial action step that you are on. Once you've heard all of the 9 steps, then you'll realize, okay, this is what he's talking about. You can only put this much in this place and this much in this place. So for now, what I want to look at is just saying, okay, I have the ability to save this much and the ability to invest this much. And then once you see the other steps, you'll see that there are specific amounts for different steps in the plan that you need to be saving or investing. There are 3 major types of savings that I would budget for. So just general savings. So things like your emergency fund, or if you want to pad that a little bit with some other savings, and then there's just that general savings where you're putting money in a savings account or a money market account. There's that. Then there's the investing thing. So maybe it's a Roth IRA, maybe it's a traditional IRA, maybe it's a 401k. If you don't understand what I'm talking about right now, I promise we'll get to all these things. But maybe that's a part of your life. Maybe that's a part of what you have going. So that's the investing part of it. And then there's college savings. So if you have children, you want to be doing something for their college, that needs to be in there too. So those 3 things need to be there. And any particular account that you are contributing to needs to be in those lines. Like I said, we want to be as specific as possible in our budget. That way we're not looking back later and saying, oh, where does that need to go? Does that need to go in that account or in that account? It should already be laid out. First of the month, you need to already have that budget laid out. It's set. It's ready to go. So you just need to follow it. You just need to go down the list and go, okay, that much is going in the 401k, that much is going in the IRA, that much is going in our savings. And you can just go right on down the line. You don't have to worry about making those discretionary decisions. Now, I understand that some of you are signed up for things with your work, like a 401k, a 403b, a TSP, in any number of things, right? And we'll get to whether or not you should be contributing to those things or how much you should be contributing to those things. We'll get to that point in the financial action plan and as we move forward. But those things need to be listed specifically. Those things need to be on our budget. But a lot of those things are going to be pre-tax. So they'll deduct it from your check. So you're like, well, how do I put this here? Well, what did I say? When we did the income at the top, the income is just after taxes. No insurance, no anything like that. Just after taxes. And so when you get to that point, you'll put the amount that you're contributing right there. Now, beware. If you are contributing to a pre-tax account, put the after-tax amount, because we're already dealing with an income after taxes. And so you will put an after-tax amount in that investing account line, whatever line that is, and you'll put the after-tax amount. And that's a real simple calculation to do. Just take 1 minus whatever your tax rate is, however much they're taking out in taxes on your check, and then multiply that by the pre-tax amount, and that'll get you to your after-tax investing amount, and you can put that amount there. Notice I haven't talked about frivolous spending yet. Like, this is something that eats me up, that people put frivolous spending above things like your electric bill or your water bill or your rent or whatever. No, your frivolous spending needs to be one of the last things that you put in your budget. And that doesn't mean that if I do all these other things, then I can't spend any money frivolously. I want you to have something in your miscellaneous or frivolous account, or your miscellaneous or frivolous line item in your budget. But be smart. If you're in a place in the financial action plan, which there will be places where you're focusing on paying off debt, don't have $600 in your frivolous spending account. Life is not in a place at that point that you should be living like that. Once again, we're submitting to this plan. We're following this particular financial plan for the good of our long-term finances. So just be very thoughtful about the spending that you budget for. Don't get me wrong. If you have young kids and your young kids are growing like weeds, you need to have some money budgeted for clothes. You need to have some money budgeted for shoes. You need to have money budgeted for any type of thing that you can just go out and buy off the shelf and it's real easy. But you just don't want to be in a place where you are spending frivolously too much to be able to do whatever step in the financial action plan that you're actually on. So this budget needs to be what we call a zero-based budget. So what that means is, once I've started with my income and I've put my giving and I've put all my expenses and I've put my saving and I've put my frivolous spending, everything should be zero at the very end. And you go, well, Dylan, does that mean you don't want me to have any money left? Well, let's wait. We've already done the savings portion. We've already done the investing portion. We've actually put money back already. We've already made a plan for that. So why do you need any more money left at the bottom of that budget? You don't. It needs to be down to zero. If it's not down to zero, then what you can do is you can allocate more money in more places. So like I was just talking about with frivolous spending, yeah, I don't want you to overdo it if you're not in that place. But if you are in a particular place where you can spend a little more money on things that you want more than things that you need, then what we can do when we get to that bottom of the budget and maybe you've got a little more money left, then maybe we could allocate that there. Maybe if you need to be ratcheting up your retirement savings, you can put it there. But follow the financial action plan. I'll lay out some steps for you. It'll be really helpful and make it really easy to allocate the money the way that you need to. But just know that when it's all said and done, there needs to be $0 of income that is not accounted for somewhere. And that's key, because that means you've given, that means you've spent money where you needed to spend money. That means you've given yourself permission to spend some amount of frivolous money, and you've also saved for your future in some way, whether it be those sinking funds, whether it be investing in 401ks, IRAs, whatever it may be. So you've done all those things already, and we need to have $0 that are unaccounted for in that budget. So why are we doing this budget? Why are we actually laying this out this way? Well, like I've talked about before, written plans get followed. If you write it down, you're far more likely to do it. Also, for many of you, you have to face your financial fears. You have to face your financial fears. And the first step of doing that is seeing it. If you don't see what you're doing with your money, if you don't see where money is going that's unnecessary or that is stupid, for lack of a better word, then you need to make some adjustments. And you can't make an adjustment until you actually face that fear and see what's going on in your financial life. And like I've already alluded to, a budget's going to allow you to know exactly where your money's going, and you're going to have permission to spend money on things. And I know that we like to hear that. We like to hear that, man, I can actually spend money. Well, people think that a budget is putting a lockdown on you. Well, maybe for some people, the budget is going to put a little lock on what you're able to do. But having a plan, having a budget is actually going to say, okay, I have this much money to spend this month on whatever this thing is. Maybe this is a particular line in my budget for my wants. Well, if I have this line in my budget, this frivolous spending, this miscellaneous spending, then guess what? I can spend that amount of money that month. I don't have to budget out that money to particular areas. I can spend that money. And so that's a key thing, is it's actually permission. A budget is this permission to spend, permission to say, take this amount and put it on this thing. And it's freeing in that way, even though it may feel at first like, especially if you're a habitual spender, it may feel at first like you're being tied down a bit. But you're going to realize that when you actually have an amount of money, a set amount of money that you can spend on things, then you can make more responsible decisions that way. So we choose to do a budget first in the financial action plan for a particular reason. And that reason is that giving, saving, and spending are best done when you have a plan. Just simply put, we need to have the plan first before we can actually decide on the steps that we're going to take toward our financial future. So knowing that we need a budget, that's a big key, and actually sitting down and doing that first budget is a big deal. Now, you may be saying, Dylan, well, how am I going to do a good budget if I don't know the rest of the plan? I don't know the rest of your financial action plan. What I want you to do is actually sit down and don't do a budget for the future yet. Do a past budget, okay? Do a budget of the current and what you're doing now. And maybe that'll just be an exercise in facing your fears. Maybe that will just be an exercise in realizing where you are. That way, once you hear the rest of the plan, once you hear the rest of these financial action plan steps, then you can actually walk through and go, okay, I know what I need to change. I know what I need to do differently. And another reason that we put budgeting first is that there are things that budgeting is going to allow you to do better than you would without a budget. And those things are save for an emergency. So I've said this before, most Americans can't cover a $400 expense. We want you to be able to do that. So saving for emergencies is a big deal. Budgeting is going to allow you to be debt free faster because you can know, okay, I'm allocating this much money to put on my debt. So you'll be able to take the steps necessary to get out of that place faster. Budgeting is also going to let you save for your future better. So you'll know that each month you're planning to contribute this much to this investment account, or do this much into your savings, or this much into your IRA or your 401k or whatever it may be. It's going to be on paper. It's going to be something that is preset that you can just say, I'm doing that much this month, check, done. So you won't have to worry about it. It's set, and that'll allow you to build wealth in the long term. Something else budgeting can push you towards is something that just sounds absurd to a lot of people, is paying off your home. Just think, if you didn't have a payment in the world, wouldn't that be wild? Like, not only being out of debt, consumer debt wise, to where we're talking about credit cards, medical bills, student loans, cars, all of these things. Think if you didn't have to pay for that big expense every month of a mortgage. If you didn't have to pay for that thing, then you would have so much money to give, so much money to invest, so much money to spend on yourself, and spend to travel, and spend to do a bunch of fun things. So budgeting can help you get there, because if you're realizing, like I said earlier, you may realize at the bottom of your budget that you have a certain amount of money left. Well, maybe that amount of money can be tacked onto the mortgage. And we'll talk about this, like I said, when we get into steps of the financial action plan. But that's just a particular use of the budget that is so huge and can allow you to push forward really hard financially. Then the last thing that a budget can help you do, and it's actually the first thing, but I'm saying it last, is you can give like you've never given before. And, when you pay off the house, if you pay off the house, then, like I said, you can give exorbitant amounts of money. But even if you haven't, you can realize that you can give more, and you can give like you've never given before and do things for other people like you've never done before. That's just a big positive of budgeting effectively, is that you can realize that, man, I don't need to frivolously spend all the money that I'm spending. I can actually give money to certain things and do good things with my money that I haven't done previously. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. What if you break your budget? Let's just start off with, first of all, it happens. Things happen. Things are unpredictable in a lot of ways. And especially if you're on some of the earlier financial action plan steps and maybe you haven't made it to a particular place where you have certain savings or certain, wealth building abilities, things can really set you back that may happen in your life. So if you break your budget, I just want you to know this. It's okay. It's okay if you don't stick to your budget 100% every month. That is not a reason to quit. It's not a reason to quit if you've broken your budget. But let me say this. If you do break it, don't make a habit of it, okay? It's okay if you break it once, but let's not get in the habit of breaking our budget, okay? Let breaking the budget be something that was unforeseen, that there was no way to actually budget for. There was no way to know that thing was going to end up breaking our budget. Or if you do, just out of your bad habits, break the budget, then you need to be able to just snap out of those things and cut into these new habits by starting the next month and saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and being more diligent in the way that you're following the plan. Now, if breaking the budget does continue, if it continues past the point where you've broken it once, you've broken it twice, you've broken it 3 times, maybe there's a problem with your budget. So this is a legitimate concern. Maybe you aren't budgeting enough money for a particular area. So one thing in particular that I think a lot of people underestimate the amount that they spend in this area is groceries and food. We spend so much money on groceries and food, and I think people underestimate that in a lot of areas, and then they wonder why they break their budget month after month. That's probably it. That could be a big area, or maybe you're shopping too much, or whatever it may be, right? Maybe you need to go make tweaks to your budget. Maybe you need to make tweaks to yourself. Maybe you need to look at yourself in the mirror and go, I'm not being a follower of this plan. I'm not doing things that are good for me. I'm not building good habits. I need to change. And guess what? You can decide to change. You can change today. You can say, I'm just going to change. I'm going to do something different, do something like I've never done it before, and see where it takes me. And like I've told you, I promise this plan is only taking you good places. This plan is not designed to take you anywhere that is anything but positive. So most importantly, just don't stop. Once you start your process of budgeting monthly, don't stop budgeting. You need to continuously budget no matter where you're at in life, no matter if you're just starting your financial journey, or you're really young, or you're deeply in debt, or if you've got it all figured out already. If you have a good net worth, if you're set, budgeting is just going to help you through no matter what you do. So just continue to budget, do not stop, and that's just going to be a habit that is going to put you in a really good place long term. So let's just end with this. Allow your budget to set you free. Don't allow a budget to restrict you. Think of it in a positive light and be diligent in doing it. The rest of my financial action plan is not going to work if you do not make the habit of budgeting a priority in your life. You have to budget. You have to set out that income and the giving and the expenses and the frivolous spending and the savings and get to that zero-based budget. You have to do that if you want to follow this plan. And once this plan is followed correctly, then you're just going to be in a much better place financially than you were previously. So hey guys, thanks again. I'm so glad that we made it through episode number 7 here. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications about the things that we're posting, the content that we're posting. Go to our website, www.mnowithdylan.com. This idea of budgeting we actually offer a financial coaching service that's called Budgeting Basics. And so you can go check that out. That's something where I'll sit down with you and walk through your budget and see where you are and actually where you need to be in the financial action plan. And so we can sit down and do that together, but you can check that out on our website. Also, you can follow us on social media at MNO with Dylan. And I post a lot of content on there and a bunch of information about our coaching services as well. So tune in tomorrow for part 2 of the financial action plan. And this is going to be our initial emergency savings that we're going to set forward. And so we're going to look at that first and then move through the rest of the 9 steps that we have total over the course of this week and next week. Also, if you just want to look at some broad topics of what we're talking about and you don't want to get into the details too much initially, then check out the weekly rewinds that's posted on Saturdays at 6 a.m. Central. All of our videos are posted at 6 a.m. Central, Monday through Friday, and then the weekly rewinds on Saturdays. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. It's been a lot of fun. I'll see you tomorrow for episode 8. This is Money's No Object. I'm Dylan Howell. God bless.